Welcome inside the Quiet Storm. Welcome inside Confessions of Love. I told you this brother's coming by, and he has arrived tonight, and it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome him back. I had the honors of meeting this brother for the first time a couple of months ago, and when we met, it was a stellar moment, and it was an enlightening moment. It was an inspirational moment, as it only could be. You may know him from the first book that he co-authored with his beautiful wife, Miss Megan Good. He has now become a New York Times best-selling author. And I'm happy to say, here's number 2, baby. It's coming down the pike, and it's The Truth About Men. So, ladies, if you wanted to hear something really enticing, an eye-opening moment, tonight is the night inside of Confessions of Love. Fellas, I want you to stay close to us because you know you have a testimonial, I have a testimonial, and this brother's giving us the revelation. It is a pleasure and honor to welcome the award-winning producer, New York Times best-selling author, Brother DeVon Franklin. Thank you, man, for coming by.
My brother.
It's a pleasure to see you.
My brother Lenny, man. Legendary Lenny, man. Yes, you know. Your reputation precedes you. So thank you.
Kind. My honor. I know, I have an idea, a distinct idea why you wrote this book.
Yes.
But for everyone who's listening and watching, please tell us, what inspired you to come forth with this?
You know, I was inspired to come forth with this for a number of reasons. You know, I would say the number one reason is we have to do better. There's so much going on in our culture relative to the behavior of men. And so often we are focused on the problem, but not the solution. What can we do about it? And so I wanted to write a book that can articulate what the problem is, but also say, here's what we can do about it. But it also started with me looking in the mirror. I didn't write this book as a man pointing any fingers. I had to look in the mirror and be honest about my own truth and be transparent about that in order to help others do the same.
Well, you know, and I'm glad you touched base on that because it's hard for us to look in the mirror and look at our flaws. We often, and most people, are easy to point out as opposed to pointing in.
It is.
And you get pretty descriptive, and you're keeping it real from what I've scanned in this book thus far about men's quote-unquote dog-like thoughts.
Yes.
What inspired that initially, you think?
So here's what it was. Honestly, here's what inspired it initially. So, you know, my father passed away when I was 9 years old. He died of a heart attack at the age of 36.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. And, you know, left me and my older brother and younger brother to be raised by my mother, my grandmother, and then my grandmother's 7 sisters.
Wow.
So fast forward to, you know, my teenage years, I was at one of my family members' houses, and I saw a picture. And on that in that picture was my mother, this female family member, and my father.
Okay.
The thing that stood out to me was my mother looked devastated, but my father and this female family member were smiling. And it was so stark. Most people just looked at the picture and went on. But for me, I said, wait, what's going on here?
Right.
So I persisted. I asked a couple other family members, and finally someone told me the truth.
Okay.
My father had cheated on my mother with that family member in that picture.
Oh, my God.
Dude,
oh my God.
Lenny, man, it blew me away. It blew me away.
Right.
So I was like, wait a minute, my father?
Right.
You cheated on my mother?
Right.
So what does this mean? What does this say? So if my father couldn't be faithful, what does that say about me?
Right.
And so I began to ask the question, even as a teenager, to the women in my family, can men be faithful? And they would say no. They would say no, men can't be faithful.
I hear that.
So for me, you know, going back to this, you know, dog-like behavior, you know, when I started thinking about this, I began to realize, even myself, that men are not dogs. You and I are not dogs, right? However, men have a struggle. This struggle is lust. And that lust can behave in us like an untrained dog to a degree where we can do things that go against our vows, our integrity, our character. Why? Because we're feeding the dog. And that dog, that quote-unquote lust, is not only running our life, but ruining our life.
But don't you feel that mothers have that internal love, that maternal love so strongly? They teach us, because mothers are our first teachers in many, many ways. They teach us about love. And you grew up around a family of women once your dad passed. And so did I. I grew up in a family of women as well. And I don't feel that I have that dog-like mentality, but I understand the lust part of it.
Yeah.
But now, in the world that we're living in these days, it doesn't seem like we're the only ones that have that lust-like mentality. It seems like the ladies have that lust-like mentality. So generations have changed.
Sure. Well, they've changed, but at the same time, they're still the same. And so I touch on the lust in women in the book just a little bit, but I don't do it a lot. Because I did not write this book so that this is a manual for what women need to do better or different.
Okay.
Too often we have that book. That book's been written a million times. But very few books are written that men, we're the ones that got to do our work. So I wrote the book from that perspective, that yes, everyone has lust. It's a common thing. And women that have read this book already are telling me that not only are they getting information about men, but they're getting information about themselves on how to manage their own lust. So it's still very appropriate.
Wow.
However, as men, I believe we have to do our work. We have to let the master. So the master is my metaphor for love. So as men, we have love and we have lust. We have the master and we have the dog. In order to be successful, we have to put love in control of lust. We have to put selflessness in control of selfishness. That's when we can become the men we were created to be.
Breaking the yoke is a hard thing to do.
Yes, it is.
I'm going to call him the preacher. DeVon Franklin's with us tonight, and we're getting a confessional situation, fellas, so I want you to stay very, very close to us. Look, I know you love music.
I do.
And I know you have a lot of favorite artists.
Yes.
I need you to give me one of those. Let's go into one of your favorite songs.
Whoo! You know, one of my favorite artists on the planet is Luther Vandross.
How can it not be? How can it not be? A man who talks about
We
love.
gonna go back. You know what I'm saying?
Let's hit DeVon off with Little Luther. We'll come back and chop it up more and get into the truth about men. It's a book that just came out, y'all, a couple of weeks ago. So you can definitely go online. You can go to. We'll find out how you can go to Brother DeVon Franklin's social media and get it that way as well. So stay close. We're inside the Confessions of Love on the Quiet Storm. Soft and warm, it's the Quiet Storm. I'm Lenny Green. So, what men and women need to know, we're going to find out tonight. Brother DeVon Franklin, thank you for being here with me tonight.
Man, listen, it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Just a moment ago, I spoke about breaking the yoke.
Yeah.
Because the yoke is something that, if you don't break that chain,
it
continues from generation after generation after generation.
Sure.
You have a quote in this book. It says, it's dangerous to allow someone who is not your spouse or significant other to meet your emotional needs. Mm-hmm. Expand on that.
Yeah, so what happens in a relationship, this is in the chapter to claim your territory. In a relationship, we have to put safeguards in the relationship to protect our relationship. So it's very similar that when we have a yard, we have to build a good fence in order for that fence to be protected from people that would threaten the very health and life and well-being of the house. So in our relationship, too often, we have no security systems. What I have noticed is that when our significant other does not fulfill our emotional needs, it's the equivalent of having a house, but the gate is open. How? Because we allow somebody else to come in and start meeting those needs. And how do emotional affairs happen? How does emotional cheating happen? Because we aren't allowing our needs to get met at home, or our needs are just flat out not getting met at home. And I don't mean sexual needs. I'm just talking about emotional needs. Needs for conversation, need to feel like we're being heard.
But see, the conversation thing is missing.
Yes. We got to get back to communicate. We talk at one another, not with one another. That's one of the reasons why I wrote this book, The Truth About Men, what men and women need to know, so it can be a conversation starter. Let's start talking with one another. Let's start trying to get understanding instead of judging each other and vilifying each other. This is hard. None of us have it all figured out. Let's bring that honesty into the conversation. And as a result, when we can be fully transparent in our relationship, it mitigates the opportunity for anybody else outside the relationship to meet our emotional needs.
Brother DeVon, most of us come into relationships, unfortunately, with baggage.
Oh, yeah.
We don't get a chance, or we don't take out the time, which is a better phrase, of dealing with our baggage prior to getting into a new relationship. So what would be your philosophy? What would be your suggestion in terms of handling something before we get into something new? Or maybe someone is listening tonight who just got into something and they didn't handle it, and only we know our skeletons, and we're not privy enough nor bold enough to speak on our skeletons out front.
Yeah. Here's what I would say. It's so important. So I want to give an analogy. So when we land at the airport, right, and somebody's there to pick us up, and you just got off a flight. So when you go over to the baggage claim and you get your bags, if that person looks at you and says, "What's wrong with you? Why do you have bags?" You would look at them like they're crazy. You know I just got off a flight, right? You know I just flew all across country. How could I fly this far without bags? The same way that if somebody asked you, "Why do you have bags?" you would look at them crazy, is the same idea for a relationship, which is we all have been on a journey. And on that journey, we collect things. It is unrealistic and irresponsible to think that in a relationship, we should have no baggage. The power of love and the power of a good relationship is this. In my relationship, the person I'm with, they don't judge the bags I have. They help me unpack them.
Yeah, but who's going to reveal how many bags you have?
Well,
That's the question.
But this is the process of trust. This is the process of love.
Ooh.
So what you got to do is you have to, first of all, decide if you even like the person. Don't try to get somebody that you don't even like to unpack your bag. So on the first date, you don't even need to get that deep. Just see, are they a person that you want to even spend time with, that you want to share airspace with? Very important.
Yeah.
So as you get to the place in a dating situation where you begin to say, hey, I like this person, and that person says, hey, I like you, and you get to the place of commitment. Okay, now as you start committing, now you can begin the process of, okay, I'm starting to trust this person. I'm starting to love this person. And as a result, I can't be afraid to start unpacking these bags.
When do you
I can't be afraid to start telling what's really going on.
When is a good time, do you think, if there is such a time, to know when to commit?
I would say every commitment inflection point is going to be different. I would encourage people not to rush to commit too soon.
Most people like to.
Because the moment they meet someone, like, oh, and here's the thing, you're committing to someone you don't even know.
Not at all.
Just take your time. I would say take your time. I mean, Megan and I, before we got married, it was so funny because we went on a couple dates. And we liked each other. And, I didn't know that at that point in time, she had already said to her girlfriends and her family that I was going to be her husband.
Wow.
But honestly, it wasn't until, I would say maybe 5 or 6 months into us dating where we talked about commitment. And that was just because, we both got to a point where we said, okay, now I think we're committed, but are we committed? So I would encourage anyone not to rush to commitment. Take your time, take it step by step, because if it's the right person, you're laying a foundation for eternity, not just for the moment. So take your time, get to know the person, make sure you want to commit to this person, and then when you do it with all your heart and might. I
need to find out, how do us fellas break that mode of lust in our mind? Because sometimes we're looking for something that in the wrong places.
Yeah.
I fell into that category many times.
Yeah, me too.
You're hopeful for love. You want love.
Yeah.
But you settle for what is available.
Yep.
Or for the moment. So when we come back in just a moment, DeVon Franklin continues talking about the truth about men. Listen and listen very, very closely. He's laying down law tonight. He's laying down wisdom tonight, as you always do, brother. You're inspired. You. I may have to take his jacket, though. His jacket, yes, he has a bad jacket of Muhammad Ali. That's the Quiet Storm, baby. Confessions of Love. Welcome inside the Confessions of Love. Lenny Green holding it down with DeVon Franklin. This brother just released the book, The Truth About Men, which is definitely a keepsake, which is something that you need to put a part of your book collection because it's very, very insightful, very, very motivational too, and it tells a lot of truth. Some truth that we don't want to even own up to.
Yeah.
Some truth that we don't want to even face. Some truth that was never talked about because there was a missing male model, positive male model in our family.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you wrote this book, brother.
Absolutely.
So thank you on behalf of men. We really do thank you and
I appreciate that.
But we're lustful.
Yep.
I guess it's a part of our spirit initially. I don't know. But I need you to help us understand how, or help us, direct us into a way of how we can start as men. We can start to break away from that lust-like attitude or perspective, looking for love, wanting love, may not even understood what love is about because we weren't, shown love. How do we as men get to that level?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, so that we can learn the process of mastery. Mastery means I lead with love, not with lust. Now, here is one of the hard truths in this book. I don't believe it is possible to completely eradicate lust from men. I believe it's a part of who we are, for better or worse. I think it's just a construct of our flesh. So I articulate that truth not to make it overwhelming or to say, oh man, there's nothing I can do. No. So once we understand it, we can now know what to deal with it. So as a man, one of the reasons I wrote the book, I talk about, hey, I have a dog in me too. I have this lust in me. But what I do every day, I work on mastering it. I work on putting selflessness in control of it. I work on putting love in control of it. And now here's this thing about love. Now, even though I was raised by women, as you mentioned, you were raised by women.
Yeah.
It's a weird dynamic. Even though I was raised by women, I didn't necessarily know how to experience love. When it came to loving a woman in my life and then also being okay with her loving me. Because as a man, I still was taught to hold on, to not express my feelings, to really suppress what I was really thinking. So as a result, when I'm closed off, I can't actually receive the love that she's trying to bring me. So one of the antidotes for lust is to be open to that love and also to recognize that just because I have a feeling or a thought, that doesn't mean I have to give myself over to it. While, I talk a lot about, big picture philosophical things, I also give real practical tips and tools. Here's what happens when you get horny. Here's how you deal with urges. I mean, seriously, man. Listen, we love to talk about, all the pie in the sky stuff, but can we just talk brass tacks for a minute?
Hey, man.
Keeping it real. Like,
yes,
what do I do when all these feelings start to come on me? I get an urge. I love my wife. I'm in a committed relationship, but I get an urge for someone else. What do I do? And in the book, I talk about that. Don't go crazy. Acknowledge that it's there. And then I talk about here's how you get over it. A lot of urges, when you acknowledge them, they go away. But what happens? We get an urge from that lustful side, from that dog. We don't want to even admit to ourselves that it's there. Suppressed urges persist. And when they persist, they get stronger and they come out in unhealthy ways.
So you talk about it through prayer? Or through counseling?
No, but multiple things. I talk about prayer, but here's one of the reasons why I wrote this book.
Okay.
Because I was raised in the church.
Okay, I know.
And the church, they will just say, give it to Jesus.
Right.
Jesus says, okay, thank you for giving it to me. I'm giving it back to you.
Right.
Paul said, I got a thorn.
Right.
I prayed for it to go 3 times. And God said, I'm not taking that thorn. My grace is sufficient for you.
Wow.
So I don't just put in place spiritual tips. I talk about take a 10 count. So when an urge comes on, count to 10. Why? Because so often when an urge comes on, we have an immediate reaction. We want to fulfill it. Take a 10 count. Create space between the feeling and the action. It will help you make a better decision. The second thing, one is acknowledge that it's there. But the second thing is this. Once I take that 10 count, now play out the consequences. If I act on this, what are the consequences?
There's always consequences.
There's always consequences. If I'm in a relationship or a marriage and I get another woman's number, or I reach out to her inappropriately, or I go on a date with her, or I invite her to a hotel room, play the consequences out.
Come on. But DeVon, we don't play the consequences out.
But that's why I put it in the book. But that's why you got to take a 10 count so you don't live in the moment, all right? Because that's this is what happens.
You have a 1-800 number where all brothers could call you up on? Because we need that. We need somebody to talk to us. We can't take a 10 count. Let's keep it real. To take a 10 count, we'll come back to the same moment, and then we need to call Brother DeVon.
Man, yo, hit me up. Tweet me. DM me. I'm trying to help because I believe, Lenny, that if this is why I put this level of detail in the book. So that it's not just philosophical and waxing poetic. We get practical. Here's how you do it. And when you go to playing out the consequences, when you play it all the way out and you end up destroying your life, destroying your integrity, your character, you ask yourself, if I satisfy myself in this moment, is it worth the destruction that may come? And when the answer is no, you say, okay, what do I do? This is why I have a whole chapter called Create a Safe Space. Mm-hmm. You got to have somebody you can call. You got to have somebody you say, yo, bro, dude,
right.
I'm about to blow it.
Right.
Man, I need you to pray with me.
Right.
Dude, because I'm about to, my wife ain't here.
We're going to call DeVon Franklin.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
right,
this is how we got to get with this thing.
But that brother who you call.
Yes.
That friend who you call.
Yes.
He's got to be solid.
But here's the reality. He's got to be solid, but you both can help keep each other strong. And if you really want to get deep, it's a powerful thing when that person you call is your wife or your significant other.
Sir. Because she's more than just your wife.
There you go.
She's more than just your sister.
There you go.
I got you.
And when you can call the woman in your life and say, babe, I love you enough to tell you I'm having a hard time. I guarantee anyone listening or watching right now, when you can have that level of transparency and trust in your relationship, it's going to go to a deeper, more profound, and poweral level.
Pastor DeVon Franklin. He may not put that title on himself.
No, I don't.
Pastor. I'm pulling the pastor, baby. Look, we're going to wrap it up because there's one more thing I want to discuss with you before I let you go, and that's discipline. Because you spoke all around it, and it's about being disciplined. So I know you have a chapter in this book about discipline, so I want to talk about that. DeVon Franklin with us tonight. One more of your favorite love songs.
Oh, man. You know what? One of my favorites is End of the Road by Boys to Men.
And we will be at the end of the road if we don't learn how to do better. For real. This is the Confessions of Love, baby, on the Quiet Storm. Soft and warm, the Quiet Storm. About to let this brother go. I could speak to you all night, but I will say this, ladies and gentlemen. He will be in New York City February 26th and I will have the honors of being riding shotgun with this brother as we discuss the truth about men, the new book. So, ladies, it's going to be an opportunity for you to come out and be a part of it. Please stay locked into me. I'll give you more details as we get a little closer to that, which is coming up next week. But I want to talk about discipline before you go, because what you just spoke about a moment ago really relies on us being disciplined enough to call someone.
That's right.
That realizing that we're not strong at every given moment of our lives. That we have to have some kind of support system behind us. But speak on that strongly, because you do speak on it pretty interestingly in this book. So
yes, I talk about, I have a whole chapter devoted to discipline, because this is the area that lays the foundation for success in our life. Too often, when we give ourselves over to our excesses, we have no discipline. And that discipline is this. It means that I will not allow what I feel always to dictate what I do. When I have discipline, that means when I'm mastering this thing, when I'm working on mastering it, it means that, you know what? I have a higher calling. I have a higher purpose. And as a result, I'm going to commit myself to that and employ myself every day to become what that discipline needs me to be. I talk about in the book that if a man can get disciplined in the area of sex, there's nothing he cannot do. Because this is an area where in the culture, we're taught no discipline. Do whatever you want. Sleep with as many women as you can. And the result of that is epic devastation and epic destruction. And so in the book, I say, you know what? Just because you have a hunger doesn't mean you always feed it. So in order to get disciplined, it becomes a situation where I say, you know, just because I feel this way, I'm not going to allow this feeling to drive everything that I do. And part of the area of discipline is how I work out, how I live, who I hang with. The direction of the pack determines the direction that I go. So I've got to have discipline that I can't be involved with everybody. Everybody's not right for me. I'm not right for everyone. Where I go, who I move with, all of these things are essential to have discipline in our life.
How can they find the book?
You can find the book. Yes, the book is everywhere. You can get it at Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble. You can download the Audible. You can get the Kindle version. You can get it on iTunes. You can also go to my website, DeVonFranklin.com, and you can order it from there too.
Relationship killers. You speak on that too in the book. The number one relationship killer for
dishonesty.
Dishonesty.
Yep. Period. End of story. When you don't tell the truth, it can destroy potentially the relationship forever.
Look, watch out for this, brother. I know you're traveling the country.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. You did an excellent job just letting us know the book was coming.
Thank you.
The book has arrived.
Yeah.
The Truth About Men. Ladies, it's definitely for you to read. Fellas, this is a must for us. This really is a must for us to pick up, for us to be open and honest with ourselves, which is the hardest thing for us to do sometimes.
Yes, it is.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
But I think with the help of this aid right here,
amen,
we'll get a lot more insightfulness and hopefulness.
There we go.
And we're going to get DeVon to commit to this 1-800 number that we can call him up on, because this brother could probably get us through it. Because you know what? Our pack, and you spoke about pack.
That's
our
it.
Pack.
Yes.
The cats that we hang with, sometimes they're now grounded enough, and they be like, okay, man, I'm going to go with this. Because you know what? I blame Adam for all this, man. See, and I know, speaking of the Garden of Eden, because I know you're working on the project.
Yes, I am.
And
yes,
so
I am.
Tell me about that real quick, because I hope, because you're going to do a little twist on it, I hope you can give me another narrative on it. Another spin on it.
Oh, man.
What if Adam didn't? Would we be in this situation, brother?
Well, you know, the likelihood, if given that Adam is a man like he probably would have done something else. So, yeah, we probably would still be right here. Like we are, you know, as men, you know, we keep it together, but we always have that side where we don't. But, yeah, I got a new film that I'm working on called The Garden. It's kind of a new take on the Garden of Eden, and we're able to use CGI and technology to experience the Garden of Eden like never before. I'm really excited about it. I'm doing it with Fox Family. Okay. And, you know, one anecdote, speaking of the Garden of Eden, which you know, is very important, because so often in this culture, women are taught to feel as if they are not whole if they don't have a man. When you go back to the Garden of Eden, Adam was created, and God said about Adam, the man, it's not good for man to be alone. As a result, he puts man to sleep, takes the rib out, he creates Eve. When Eve is made, she doesn't say, "Where's Adam?" She comes into the garden completely whole. It is Adam that says once he sees Eve, now this is the reason why a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife.
Got it.
This is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. So he is saying, I am not whole without her. This is so important because as men in the culture, we're taught to fear commitment and women are taught to crave it. I believe if we get back to divine design, as men, we will recognize we need women to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
And I believe women who feel as if they are not whole because they are single, that feeling will get healed. Because a woman is whole all by herself, all by her creation. It doesn't mean we aren't better together. Yes, we are. But you are not less than if you don't have a man.
Let the church say amen. DeVon Franklin, thank you for giving us the word
Yes.
for the evening. Inside a Confession of Love. Don't forget, The Truth About Men is available on all platforms. Go to his website to get it personally. This has been a pleasure.
Thank
I look
you,
forward in being in front of an audience with you.
Cannot
once again
wait.
Soon. That's going to be insightful,
Yeah.
enlightening, and revealing. It's
Here we
gonna
go.
be a revelation moment for sure.
Amen.
Thank you for coming by tonight,
Thanks
brother.
for having
Always a
me.
pleasure seeing you.
Likewise.
More of the favorite slow jams coming up, baby. Let's tuck you in nice and tight on The Quiet Storm.